It still looks a little choppy.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Board of Education being held in the Board of Education room in the District Administration Building on Tuesday, September 5th, 2023 at 7:05 p.m. I'd like to start out tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please keep in your thoughts Margaret Grossi's AS elementary school teacher, Mr. Peter. Pledge allegiance to the United States of America. To stand for God, indivisible, with justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We don't have anyone signed up for the privilege of the floor this evening. No, maybe? No? Okay.
Yeah,
All right, no one signed up. So we'll be jumping into president's members of the Board of Education opportunity to take a tour of our building. And thank you, Mr. Freeze, for getting that together. Go to SAS, GIS, CJ Hooker, and high school and take a look at some of the recent work that was done by our maintenance team. The capital improvement project was really looking fantastic. Really, really nice overview today, seeing all the work. The Board of Education is continuing its Board of Education governance training. So just a reminder to everybody, sent out an email. So just take a look at that. I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow night here. And lastly, I'd like to just say good luck to everybody tomorrow, students, teachers, and administrators alike. It's going to be an exciting year. So good luck to everyone. And that's all I have in my report for this evening. So now we'll move on to the legislative update. Mr. John Sullivan.
No update for this meeting. There is an Oxbow meeting tomorrow night. I'll be here for the, but look forward to reviewing the notes meeting and providing an update.
And other board.
For the safety committee, I had the opportunity today shooter training that was conducted today. The attendance from the teachers, I want to first say for putting this on is something that was unfortunately needed, but much needed. I want to thank the teachers who showed up and absolutely looked to, was very interested in the topic. And I want to thank the Village of Goshen Police, but also he gave a fantastic presentation, a real life presentation to them. And then they can 300 teachers showed up, and again, it's something that we need to repeat. It's unfortunate, but we need to do it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reed. If there's no other committee reports, we'll go ahead and move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Long. I turn it over to our partners at LAN. The training today, the feedback that we received was eye-opening, that people actually asked for more. Just our instructional staff, but our bus drivers took part. All of the feedback that we got was very positive. We will be looking to the future to see how we can continue to support and augment that even further. This time I'd like to invite Ms. Danielle Farrell and Mr. Matt Millenow to come forward. So as Mr. Loftus shared, we have the opportunity to engage in a large amount of capital improvement work this summer. We are at the end of Avenue. We are getting ready to begin some roofing work at GIS. Looking forward to finalizing our 5-year plan that they've never met before. But number two, to provide some feedback on the Scottsdale project beyond the bid process. We both of you, and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having us. As I look across the board and I see really in a public setting, I've met most of you before. Appreciate the opportunity to come present today. Land Associates has been school district for the last 10 years, since 2013. Mel and I both live and work in this community. We're very proud. We have service Goshen Central School District. I have 3 kids, very eager to start freshman year, 5th grade and 2nd grade. I know because I checked with my wife before I left today. And Danielle, if you'd like, please give a brief intro.
Like Matt said, I'm meeting some of you for the first time, but I recognize from football and scouts and different. I'm also a Goshen resident. I have 2 children going into freshman year and 5th grade. So we're ourselves. I'm and I head up the K through 12 sector in our Goshen.
So we're here to give you a progress report, but the reality is most of the work is done. And I think with the weather and the temperature today, there's no better time to announce that Scottsdale Avenue School really has air. We did finish a really important roof recoating and replacement project on May. The co-op, and most part of the work is done. There's some final coordination that's ongoing. Summary of which you're all aware of by now. Change orders occur during construction. We minimize them as much as possible. We did find an existing condition that warranted a change order. Adjusted one change order on a $1.5 million project. Very minimal cost to the district. So Scottsdale Avenue School, at least from the eyes of my young daughter, is that she gets to go into a classroom tomorrow with air conditioning. You know, so she spent all day in our house without air conditioning. She's very so we're also very proud to make that announcement to our community and to our families. This project was long overdue, very well received by the community and the faculty, executed almost seamlessly. I can't express to you enough for the new board members who haven't gone through a capital project, how challenging it is to get 15, 16 weeks of construction work, to get an HVAC supplier to provide you with mechanical equipment, you know, and team that worked knowing that you had internet outages as a result of power outages as a result of utility company being slightly cooperative and then cooperative. So there was a major milestone to get on to deliver the service upgrade about in this project, and they knew that if they didn't deliver, the project was going to slide into not getting done, and that was not going to be acceptable. Of Dr. Coates and our partners over Gerard Associates, Land, and everybody really bird dog O&R and got them to the table to cooperate. It was a group, and very much appreciate the partnership with Dr. Coates and the school district to assist us with that. It does take a little name dropping and with the utility company, but we won't say that. They can be challenging to work with, but they did come through and they did deliver. Rotolo 11 partner of ours. This is our first Land's first foray into doing a co-op contract. So I have to admit, you know, industry plus, we haven't done co-op contracts. Most school districts have been afraid of them. There's council are all warming up to the idea of cooperative purchasing contracts, and so Danielle, because we get to do the exciting stuff.
I get to do the numbers, all right. So we had our original contracts with talking with, we put an allowance aside, because we didn't really know how much extra asbestos we wanted to make sure that we had an allowance in place. So I'm happy to say that any of the change orders that we did come across were all taken care of through that allowance, including the last. We negotiated a bit so that we were underneath the allowance amount. One was change order number 3, which were requirements from Orange and Rockland. There's no way around that. For that, we did have to upsize some electrical feed conductors, sections of fin tube that were actually hiding cases that we replaced. And then we did have some additional asbestos abatement. But we're happy that the final number remained the same and we didn't have to come back to the board to ask for any additional funding.
Are there any questions about the capital work that we completed regarding the roofing and air conditioning or HVAC? Moving on.
As of 5 o'clock today, almost all of the rooms were up and running with air conditioning to knew of that had a manufacturer, and the teachers lounge needed to have something done at 5 a.m. Tomorrow morning to make sure that it's up and running before school starts.
So with the overhaul of an HVAC system, there's going to be some complaints. There's going to be some new temperature readings in classrooms will be cooler than they had ever been before or ever imagined it could be, and we're going to make some adjustments to the building management system, also called the BMS, and those system adjustments will be made over the next several months. So some level of complaint, maybe some level of gratitude from teachers who have air conditioning for the first time. We think that's a great thing.
Important to also say that between Jim and Adam and Justin, every single meeting, training, it was a group effort to get this done because this was a lot in a short amount of time. So training was easy to work with, and then at the administrative level as well.
So on to the next one, Goshen Intermediate School project they looked at back in 2013 and ultimately sort of pivoted into doing a smaller scale project over at SAS. We restoration project that's ready to go to SED. Around the beginning, I'll come over and take a look. But we looked into it a little bit further with the gravel pulled back, and we discovered that the creeks actually had a crack in it. We were finding that water may be actually traveling from the crack and sort of showing it in a different location below. So if you can imagine dripping water and then seeing it below because of the stain, well, this water was dripping below, and we just wanted to make sure that we were giving you the most responsible direction related to the project. And we felt like this was a time to take a look back and say, is a restoration enough? Should we go to full-blown replacement? This roof, based on Mr. Freese's feedback and prior feedback from Mr. Riley, has always been problematic. AS roof and gymnasium have had a tarp in it for I think 2 winters. We really don't want to go another winter, so I stabilize it. Dr. Coates and Lan met after that new information, and we discussed how to proceed. Decided to encumber some more work and design a replacement for that upper area that's shown sort of in the AC penthouse in that top right photo. That's above the GIS roof, holding HVAC equipment for the roof. That brick box on top of that building all needs to be waterproof in order for us to make sure the entire envelope is truly weather tight. If we walk away from here just doing the roof membrane and we're getting water in from some of the cracks or some of the joints that need to be raked and repointed, here, water in the building and you coming back to us and saying, you told us this was going to be weather tight. I would rather cover the entire envelope comprehensively. If there's a need to scale back things related to cost, there are means that we can do that. You have EPDM roofs that are about 20 that are sort of on the bottom left corner towards the front of the building. Those roofs are showing no significant signs of deterioration. Scale back our approach. There are some areas that we could take an alternate financially we can afford to work or the most high priority. So we have SED into the school district, into the Board of Ed. and returned back to land, we can submit our drawings, specifications, which we call a project manual, to the state education department. We put that into their backlog. There's a queue of other projects waiting for review, and after they review it, we'll Is everything?
We're anticipating to start this, in the spring.
In the spring. So, last thing, and this just sort of came up as a result of Dr. Coates and Land sort of talking about what might be important to the Board of Ed. Which my slide will advance, I don't know. Yeah, it's that, I lost my mouse. Okay, a lot of words, I'll be simple. What we have learned from working in the co-op this year on 2 separate contracts is that we were able to secure longer lead materials like HVAC equipment, start working with a contractor earlier, and that made the procurement. We were able to establish a quality control center with training as a manufacturer working on our design, and an interactive process where they collaborate on our design and makes critical suggestions about how to improve the quality of the documents and the quality of. We're less likely to have significant change orders. The process was far more collaborative. Some of the disadvantages to a co-op are cooperative contracts provide a price ceiling, but they may not always be the most competitive price. And by saying that out loud, I think everybody has to acknowledge, we don't know if we put this project out for competitive bid, if that would. Right, so there's a risk you run by going through the co-op to say, I want the quality control, I want the collaborative process with my design professional work. I want to be able to procure the contract earlier. All of these things were necessary to get the HVAC job. This summer, we needed to have train on the team. We needed equipment sooner, and we needed to lock in that schedule. Otherwise, we knew we weren't going to be able to do that with the lowest qualified bidder through a competitive bid.
Yeah, I just want to jump in there for a minute. Some of you were on the board when we had this conversation. That Lam was articulating very clearly to us what design was availability of equipment. And the Omnia bid was something, as Matt said, that none of us had ever dealt with. That was one of the sole determinants of why we made that decision. Subsequently, we've seen some very good pieces that we've learned about the process, but just to be clear, going with the Omnia bid was largely driven by knowing that Train said, if you buy it this way, you're going to get what we promised you in this amount of time.
We can also start the process earlier, so while the project was at SED, get 12 to 14 weeks, but really it takes longer than that. Train at the same time was also putting together their numbers. We already had a number Train, and we were able to move forward with the purchase order versus then having to go through the.
We're not here to say, do it this way. We're here to give you the information, as much information as you can tolerate and digest. Ask us questions if you have questions about it. We don't have a preference. We deal in the K through 12 bids all the time. Procurement through co-ops and Omnia and other piggybacking resources are to us. So if we get a question like, why does this change order profit and overhead when the contract says don't? Well, that's the first time we're interpreting a contract of that type. So it took us a little while to get through that process, to get trained written into our spec. A contractor is not entitled to overhead and profit on an allowance, but treated. So we had this experience of getting feedback from the board to go back and take a look at the change order again. Do this with us, please just be aware. It's our first effort through it. I think it was incredibly successful. Here we are on a 90+ degree day, 9 weeks after hard construction at SAS, we're turning air conditioning on, and it looks like a major win for the district.
And an additional piece too, one of the time constraints that we had, the ESSER grant money was funded a large portion. We were under. Allowed us to get in the line and make sure that we could pull that money and use that money that we had benchmarked to appropriate to this project.
Yeah. By encumbering it before the deadline this year, there is carryover work that Train needs to do to replace. So while the contract in a whole and for the most part for the community's sake, report on the progress of construction because it will still be slightly open. for us.
I just wanted to say, thank you to you guys. You know, during the process, your responses were just incredibly prompt. There was, and when the submitted, every single backup information was provided, and there was nothing left to guess about. So I really do appreciate the diligence in putting that together. And also seeing the change order number 4 and your ability to negotiate a little bit and keep everything within the allowance, that was fantastic. Because I saw the first number and did a really nice job negotiating that down. Every time we had questions that went to Dr. Coates, I mean, really the feedback was great job. We appreciate all the hard work and getting the job done. Everything looks fantastic. You know, pros and cons of the cooperative bid. Thank you so much for pointing that out. Just to give a little insight field in, you know, the education realm here, what type of delays would you be seeing with, you know, products?
HVAC equipment is a big one, insulation, manufactured, electronics, manufactured overseas, those are the biggest ones, doors.
Doors, we're now seeing schools do doors purchasing, because they can get a lot faster.
And without the cooperative type of delays, 6 months, 10
That'll
months?
depend on the product. I mean, HVAC equipment, we were hearing lead times as long as 22 to 26 weeks. A transformer, a year, 55 to 58 weeks from some utility companies. Central Hub, great, they'll get it to you in 2 months. O&R says we'll be lucky to review your application in 6 months, which is basically, we submitted it in November, the project constructed. In June, we were sort of knocking on their door saying, hey guys, I don't know if you know, we give you this application. I haven't reviewed it, I'm in the middle of a job, really need power. Within a couple of weeks, they had Jackie on the phone with us and they triaged them. So the product, it's product specific. Environmentally, certain markets, certain regions collapse, causing shortages of materials. You guys have heard plywood have been an issue in the past, but right now, steel I know is a little bit more expensive, takes a little bit longer to get. HVAC equipment, because everybody's spending their ESSER money on HVAC upgrades.
Yeah, if there's any future HVAC, I think that's one of the things where we're saying, you know, do it as on a case basis, but that's probably one that we would definitely suggest, really go up based on the success and then also knowing that they could get the equipment faster.
Changes have made in terms of strategy, I should say, adopted as our recommendation. In the past, either trying to accrue capital reserves or borrow. Included in our budget right now is transfer to capital just short of $1.2 million. You can accrue that money over time. Doesn't mean that you have to do teeny tiny projects every years and have that money accrued, but this allows us basically not to go back to the community and say, okay, we need another $4 to $6 million to be able to get this done. And Lana's been great at making that pivot with us, as most of our work in the past, if not all of it, has been done with reserves. The roofing project that is in front of you is the way that project will be funded. And again, if we run into any issues, we can look down the road if the board chooses to create that within the budget. Any work, as Matt said, we have to value engineer any of that work out, that we can go back and do it again.
Yeah, I would just add, Dr. Coates, picking a strategy for procurement does influence more cost of service. Or some procurement methods like a co-op where it's only going to one bidder and they know how to do things. When you go to a competitive bid, I'm working with who knows how many bidders who have, I don't know how many questions, and some of them may have never even done a job like this before. So it takes a public competitive bid to host it one time. We sent for our services, hey, we'll competitive time for you, because each time we just want to set up realistic expectations. You understand that, hey, I'd like to do it this way, but I'm not sure about the cost difference. That's the question. We can put ranges in our proposal. The price for this is this versus this, and then you can
bid ask land at our last meeting together to build that option into the GIS project, that if we get to that point, we bid that to try to realize some cost savings that we can do that.
It was just about, you had mentioned that there's a recommendation for bulkhead work. Whether that be repointing, flashing at that brick mold, tightening up an envelope. How is that incorporated into the current proposal?
Well, we put the masonry right into the bid package and it will be permitted by the state as such. How we wanna bid it is a whole nother story down the road. We do the roof job as a roof project, and then you can separate the masonry. Piggyback the two into one bid, force a roofer to find a sub. Point of contact, one contract. Generally, that's our preference. It's easier, it's more streamlined, might not give you the best sub to work with, but we'll vet the subs out, we'll make sure they're qualified. The Omnia contract for Tremco and WTI, I thought worked out relatively well. I think Tremco's a really good team player. They put a lot of roof membranes on, performing well. When Jim Freeze calls, Justin Fry from Tremco answers, and I think that's a good relationship. So that being said, look, you can still bid it and end up with a great contractor you never expected to do the job at a very low price. It happens. It's just a risk you run. And sometimes you want to test that risk out and find out, hey, what do I have over here? And what am I gonna do over here and make the comparison? Decide what's best for you.
When we send it to the state, we like to just include everything in there, which is why we have that in there, and then we can make a decision on how we're gonna bid it once it's at the state or back to the state.
Yeah, that's your call. We don't make that decision for you. We can give you our professional advice and counsel and recommend something ultimately.
Thank you. Questions? All right, thanks a lot for the update.
Well, thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Good night.
So I wanted to share with the board just some last minute programming staff before we enter the new year, and not to steal any thunder from Mr. Carter, but a large portion of our summer curriculum work was focused on professional development, our new literacy program, our updates to our math program. Teachers had an opportunity to do a lot of curriculum mapping that we're going to look to the new year, hopefully to make some very public documents so that families can follow along on what their children should be learning in that setting. We're moving to the new year in a very good place. We have been looking closely at data and student learning, and I think that our teachers are very much focused on how do we make sure that the product in the classroom can be as we move into the new school year. In terms of staffing, we were one person resigns. We still are working on an interventionist math hire for middle school. Mr. Carter has been working with the building administrators at CJ Hooker. They are well prepared. Again, it is an interventionist position, so it's not a regular classroom where we have to worry about that classroom being covered. We will be able to pull those students out eventually once we have that new person. Opportunity to go on retreat with the leadership team, our principals, our directors. We worked on 3 strategies throughout the day. First was really focused on goal setting. As we're on the foot of coming off an awkward school year with fractured time, learning, people in, people out, we really wanted to refocus on what those strategic goals were. The first part of that training, Mr. Bosse's, it really did some nice work, number one, around team building with looking specifically at those strategic goals and really how we could align our work to those strategic goals. We'll be following up throughout the year as the administrative cabinet comes together each month on how we will monitor and assess whether or not we're making progress on those goals. We then have extensive legal update from Drohan. Drohan, Waxman, Pettigrew, and Bale came in and did legal special education and due process. They did some very good work on making sure that our builders are not only prepared, but giving them information to share with the instructional staff at the same time. And then part of maybe the most painful part of the retreat, we did some stress management work. We had Happy Buddha yoga come in. Mr. Carter still is creaking when he gets out of his chair, his knees and his back crack every time he gets up. But it was well appreciated by the group to have them come in. Our days are busy. Our days are very hectic and chaotic sometimes, and it was some nice soft time, if you will, with the administrators for us all to be able to do that together. So it was a great process. I was glad to be able to do that with the administrators, and it set the tone hopefully for what will be a very positive school year. That's sir. I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Loftus.
Thank you very much, Dr. Coates. All right, moving on to the next point in our agenda, we have the assistant superintendents for business report.
Thank you.
Ms. Lorraine Van Lemmer.
Thank you. The only thing I have tonight is just to draw your attention to, on the agenda, I had to put the corrective action plan for the 21-22 external audit back on the agenda because State Ed had unsubmitted it. They said to me that they require the name of the person responsible for any of the corrective actions. So I have redone corrective action plan to include the names of either myself or Nicole D'Souza, who is our district treasurer, for whatever item she has to do. And I will resubmit it tomorrow, pending your approval, of course. That's all that's about. That's a new regulation I hadn't heard of before. So moving forward, I'll make sure to put our names on it. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you. And moving on to our assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction, personnel and technology report, Mr. Jason Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Loftus. Good evening, everyone. So just a quick update as we move into the new school year. Prior to this meeting, I had the opportunity throughout the months of July and August to work with Dr. Diane Lang and her team over at Orange Ulster BOCES to try to secure some opportunities through the Learning Technology grant for Mandarin courses. So we're about to venture into a Mandarin at Goshen High School. However, it will be a dual enrollment course. It will be provided through Marist College and OU BOCES, and it will hold a 3-credit value. So this class will be primarily asynchronous with one, if not. We have a unique way of starting this to ensure that all of those students who are interested in taking that opportunity. However, it could be quite challenging given that it is a higher level language. So students will begin at some point in November, and I'm continuing to work out these finer details. There will be a period in which the students who are interested will have somewhat of an exploration process with some assignments. And those students who are able to achieve a grade B or higher will then be scholarship into the actual program, which will run for the remainder of the semester, January through June, with potential to gain 3 credits of three credits toward a college transcript. So we're really excited about that opportunity. More importantly, it will also allow us to see what interest looks like at the secondary level. Moving into the middle school realm, working with the same team was what I would refer to as Exploration Club. So I don't know if any of you recall, but we did have a Mandarin sequence. So ultimately, it has been here in the past. We'd love to get there. This Exploration Club, if you will allow us to gauge interest of our students in grades 6, 7, 8. Running it after school in that period of time, 2:35 to 3:15, yet not too short. And really, we would refer to it also as a taste of Chinese culture and language. So students will become a little bit more acclimated with culture, practice a little bit with language acquisition. But for us, it will allow us to see what that interest level is. If you consider it to be 2 different cohorts, right? If we run semester 1 and semester 2 format, which may lead to the potential for a full sequence moving forward, which of course would not be funded by, but rather it would come into our general fund. So we're excited to have these opportunities. I really want to thank Dr. Lang once again for having these discussions with us, for providing a lot of information for multiple programs, but we would never choose to walk away from an opportunity with BOCES, especially a grant opportunity with BOCES, nor would we choose to walk away in the future as long as it's fiscally wise and sound. So again, we're excited. I'd also like to take the opportunity to welcome everyone back to the new school year. We're excited for our faculty and staff members, certainly excited to see the buildings populated with a lot of smiling children. If they're not really smiling, they'll put on a good show and smile on the way. But we are excited for the new school year. We look forward to a lot of great things to come. That'll wrap up my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, moving on, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. I have John Shannon. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We don't have any old business, so moving on to the new business. I need a motion to approve minutes. I have Billy and Scott. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the minutes of the August 28th, 2023 regular meeting.
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to adopt the revised code of conduct. I have Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education adopts the revised code of conduct dated 2023 for the 2023-2024 school year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to approve the terms and conditions for evening high school. Brett. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the terms and conditions for evening high school of Central School District, effective July 1st, 2023, June 30th, 2024. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion to approve the updated corrective action plan related to external audit report prepared by Nugent Hausler for the year ending June 30th, 2022. I have Billy and John. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education approves the updated corrective action plan related to the external audit report prepared by Nugent Hausler for the audit year ending.
Aye.
Opposed? I need a motion. Seeker for proposed action. I have Billy and Ashley. Whereas Education, the Goshen Central School District Board of Education is proposing a capital project consisting of roof restoration, roof replacement, and roof repairs. Goshen Intermediate School, including incidental actions relating thereto, proposed action. And whereas the Board of Education proposes to proceed with the proposed action and wishes to take all necessary in connection therewith in order to comply with the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQR. And whereas the Board of Education has reviewed the proposed action with respect to resolutions, with respect to the type 2 criteria set forth in the SEQR regulation 6 NYCRR part 617.5, and has determined that the proposed action is class type 2 action pursuant to section 617.5 C1. Maintenance or repair involving no substantial changes in the structure or facility. 617.5 C2. Replacement, rehabilitation, or reconstruction of a structure or facility in kind on the same site, and or 6.5 C10. Routine activities of educational institutions of the SEQR regulations. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education determines that the proposed action 617.5 C1 and or 2 and or 10 of the SEQR regulations. Environmental impacts and no further action is necessary. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, I need a motion for executive session. I have John, Billy. Be resolved, the Board of Education will enter into executive session with the intent not to reconvene the business portion of the meeting. for discussions related to matters leading to the appointment of particular population, the employment history of particular persons. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?